In the earliest centuries of Christianity, before cathedrals were built, before creeds were written, before the Bible was bound, there was a woman whose name echoed in the hearts of believers across the world, Mary of Nazareth. They didn't see her as a statue. They saw her as a mystery, a living link between heaven and earth. To them, she wasn't just the mother of Jesus. She was the sign that God truly entered history, through flesh, through a woman, through love. The early Christians called her the New Eve. Just as Eve's yes to the serpent brought death, Mary's yes to God brought life. To them, her obedience reversed the world's curse. Writers like Saint Irenaeus, in the 2nd century, wrote that the knot of Eve's disobedience was loosed by the obedience of Mary. They saw in her a quiet strength, not power through dominance, but power through surrender. When the early church spoke of Mary, they didn't worship her. They honored her, as the first believer, the model disciple. The one who carried the word not just in her womb, but in her heart. They believed she was blessed among women because she said yes, when the world would have said no. And that yes changed history forever. In the 3rd and 4th centuries, early fathers like Saint Athanasius and Saint Ambrose wrote about her purity and courage. They described her as the Ark of the New Covenant, because just as the ancient Ark carried the presence of God, Mary carried the divine Word made flesh. To them, this wasn't poetry. It was revelation. The Creator had entered His creation, and He chose her body as the doorway. By the time the Council of Ephesus met in 431 AD, the world had already begun to call her by a title that still stirs hearts today: Theotokos, God-bearer. Not to glorify her above God, but to proclaim that the child she bore was truly divine. It was a statement about Jesus, and a testament to her faith. The early Christians saw her as every believer's mirror. When they looked at Mary, they saw what faith looked like when it was pure, fearless, and surrendered. They saw humanity cooperating with grace. And in their songs they called her Mother of the Living, Gate of Heaven, Star of the Sea. Each name reflected a truth. That Mary's story wasn't just about her. It was about what God can do through anyone who says yes. So when the early Christians spoke of Mary, they weren't just talking about a woman from Nazareth. They were talking about hope. About how heaven chose the humble. About how God's greatest miracles often begin with a quiet yes. And that's why 2,000 years later, her name still moves hearts, inspires art, and fills cathedrals with awe. Because she reminds the world of this simple truth. When you let God in, nothing remains ordinary. If this story moved you, share it, so that others may rediscover the awe the first Christians felt at the name of Mary.